Hello, my friends. It's me. It's me, Drew Michael. Drew Mike. I used to have a friend who was, I think I made fun of him on this show before. His name was Jacob, and he was a straight friend of mine that I had in South Carolina. It's so funny because I feel like sometimes, like, you have friends in your life. Okay, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but friends that, like, you're almost positive, like, did not want to be your friend. In fact, they probably, like, hated you. And you just, like, kept being like, hi. And eventually they just broke down. I have two friends like that. My friend Stuart, and we're not really friends anymore. And this friend Jacob, and we're not really friends anymore. But both of those friendships ended with me being like, either getting mad at them or them getting mad at me, and us just being like, we're done, you know, kind of, more or less. So, and I will tell you right now, my friendship with Stuart was like, it started in high school. The majority of it was in high school in our senior year, and then, you know, it was a really close friendship. Oh wait, I'm forgetting all of our history in New York. Just kidding. We were friends throughout college, and then I guess we were friends in New York. So anyway, but I would say that the most connective quality part of our friendship happened in high school, because we were probably hanging out every single day, and we were doing creative, you know, art projects together. Like, he was helping me compose music for my senior thesis dance piece. And so, yeah, we had a very, very close relationship, friendship in high school. Now, Jacob and I were just friends out of, I think, just the fact that we were both in the same place at the same time. We definitely had difference in political views. He was straight, I was gay. And he worked with me, and he was a friend of mine, and other straight guys that we worked with, they were friends of mine too. And I entertained them all, and I, you know, it was kind of like having a cool girl to hang out with, you know. I'm not sure what they would have said about that, but I consider myself to be a cool girl. So this whole story is just that Jacob used to call me, he used to have a real thick Carolina accent, and he used to call me Drew Michael. And I don't know if he was calling me Drew Michael and just the end of it was falling off, or if he was calling me Drew Mike. I think he was calling me Drew Mike. And in the South, I had introduced myself to my, like, work friends, which were mostly my only friends. I ended up having besties that I didn't work with later, Priscilla and Lexi, but for a long part of the time I lived in South Carolina, my main friends were just my coworkers, and that's kind of how it is here in Michigan now. Great, love it. So, I had other straight friends, and we all hung out together, but me and Jacob used to hang out alone a lot too. And I think it was just a thing where he wanted a friend, he wanted someone to do shit with. I entertained him. Well, there was a time that I folded his laundry for him, so I was like, oh my god, am I, like, girlfriending? What's happening here? A part of me thought that there might have been at some level, like a part of him that was like interested in doing sexy things, but I'm not really sure how much of me believed that and for how long, but I know there was a spell. There was probably a lot of like rumors going around, which I feel bad about because I didn't create them, but I certainly didn't help them. And it needs to be possible. It needs to be possible for a man and a woman to be friends without anything sexy happening. And it needs to be possible for a gay guy and a straight guy to be friends without anything sexy happening. And like without anybody assuming that there's something more there. Like there just needs to be the possibility of friendship without anything more. Because there's a lot of that and there's a need for it, you know. People need companionship in a lot of different ways. So anyway, basically that was my whole story. He just used to call me Drew Mark. He'd be like, "Hey Drew Michael, we're gonna go fishing today. You wanna go fishing?" Oh God. And by the way, I would imitate him to his face. So, you know, and other people heard me imitate him at different times and thought it was like spot on. And I'm probably not doing the best job of it anymore. I haven't heard him talk in a while. Last time I saw him, I was like out to dinner with a friend, and he was like at the same restaurant across the way with his like new girlfriend. And you know, down south, if you meet someone, you're talking about marriage within like the first 3 months, you know, like it's just, it's highly Christian, and it's just like, you know, they need to get it when they can. They're like, oh, we better, you know, I'm sure that they're having, like, he wasn't so religious that he wouldn't have premarital sex, but like there's a lot of pressure on people in those communities to like get married and have kids. And you know, if you're like mid-20s, late 20s, there's like, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on conservative people to do those things, and it's all just bullshit, but you know, that's the life that they choose for their communities. So best of luck. Anyway, so I don't know what else to talk about. That's the whole episode. Well, I was trying to figure out what my face was doing. I recently, so in I think last week's episode, I talked about how my face, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, I don't know, I've been recording in advance now, and it's really hard for me. So like, I'm recording some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today, like, it'll be like old news by the time this episode comes out, and I don't know how to like rectify that. Plus like when you go back to listen to podcasts, it's kind of like reading a journal. Like, it doesn't really matter when it happened. You're not going to listen to it, you know, necessarily on the day it comes out. And, you know, other people will go back, and if they really like a podcast, they'll listen to old episodes anyway. So, it's this thing of like, oh, this episode must have been recorded during the, you know, this and that, blah, blah, blah. The only thing about that like kind of, like triggers me is when I go back and listen to recordings from podcasts that were happening like during COVID. And sometimes before COVID, if they're like an episode of mine is a city. What am I saying? What the fuck am I saying? My Favorite Murder is one of my favorite podcasts, and they were recording before COVID, during COVID, obviously now after COVID, but now they're doing like rewind episodes where they go back and they play old episodes, but then they like talk about it, and they like they can like do, since it's true crime, they can like update the listener and say like what you know, is there any like new information in this case, or like anything with the victim or the victim's family, or the, you know, what am I thinking? My brain just stopped working. Apparently all I can talk about is like Southern people today. I have a headache. But anyway, so when they talk about stuff before COVID, sometimes it's like the episode was before COVID, and then like later on after COVID, they'll be like, oh, this was like right before COVID, and we still believed in things, and like it's like, oh, like I'm just a little triggered still by COVID. A lot of people I know don't even want to talk about it. They don't want to say the words, and I understand, because I basically don't either. I wish you guys would rate, review, subscribe. I really do. And I wish you'd email us at makesensewithmepodcast@gmail.com. This is Make Sense With Me, a podcast where we woke up. Oh my God, there was like a field with like a deer and like some, like, I think they were sandhill cranes or turkeys. It looked like there was 3 different kinds of animal in that field, and they were all wild, and they were all like, hey girl, come and hang out and hug us. And I was like, oh girl, that's what I said. Oh my God, that truck just drove into my lane. What a fucking dick. Alright, so this is a podcast where we cannot even focus on our own sentences. Ugh. And occasionally, I just drove by Chubb Road. I love that. Occasionally I will not go back. Like, I will go on a tangent or interrupt myself and talk about something completely different, and I won't remember to go back and finish a point. And when I'm editing, I hear it, and I'm like, God! I'm so mad at myself. Oh, it's bad. Oh, so in a couple episodes ago, oh my God, I was talking about that. I was just talking about that before. Oh my God. Okay, I somehow remembered. Okay, a couple episodes ago, I was talking about how podcasters, like, who don't do video, like, their faces are doing literally nothing, and they're making all these crazy noises, and I've been just really inspired to make a lot more crazy noises for some reason. I don't know why. I think I'm bored. But I've been like occasionally looking at my face in the mirror when I do some podcasting to be like, am I doing anything right now? Like, am I one of them, or am I one of me? And so it's something in between. I did this reel for my job. The idea behind the reel. Okay, so basically my Y system decided that we can't use trending audio anymore. The association's really worried that like we will be in copyright, infringement or whatever. And they're just like, okay, we can't do any more trending audio, because whoever owns the audio could come for us or whatever. Or there could be it could be tied to something that's inappropriate and we don't realize or whatever. And I mean, we literally did a trending audio that was like a recording of like some scene from School of Rock or whatever, and I was like lip syncing Jack Black or whatever. And I've never even seen School of Rock, so that wasn't my fucking idea. But anyway, so because we can't do trending audio anymore, it's been harder and harder for us to like get a lot of views on our posts. Like, I think one of our posts had like 8,000 views. One of our posts had like closer to 12 or 13,000 views. I mean, like, we were doing pretty good. And I mean, this is funny because our YMCA is like my actual branch, I think we have less followers than I personally have on my Instagram. And I don't do anything ever. So, it's pretty bad. I think it's a lot younger. My Instagram is like, I got Instagram when it like first came out. So, like, I obviously have collected some followers, but, anyway, essentially we recently got motivated to post some more because another one of the branches in our association just went viral, and their post has had like over 700,000 views, and we're like, oh no, because we were like doing the best, we were like leading, we were like getting a lot of traction. Like our association, before they took away trending audio, was like really proud of us and the work we were doing and like the engagement we were receiving, and then they took away trending audio, and now we're just like, oh. And I'm not as much because I have a lot of creative, funny ideas, and I like to just like, I don't need recognition for my ideas. Like, I just like to do them, and if a couple people see them and think, oh my god, that was so funny, like that's all I need, right? I guess I do need some amount of recognition, but my coworker Melissa, she just really is so sour about the fact that like we can't do trending audio. She's like, no one's even watching, why would we even do it? And I'm just like, I mean, you've got a valid point, it is social media. But so she came in my office and she's like, let's do a post, like, did you know that this other branch went fucking viral? And I was just like, oh my god. And at first I went like, what? I don't care, what are you talking about, who cares, blah blah blah. And then she said 700,000 views, and I was like, what? That's insane, they went viral. She's like, that's what I just said. And I was like, yeah, but like I thought you were just being like hyperbolic. I didn't know like that was that to that extent. That's like insane. So anyway, basically we posted something that we thought was trending. It wasn't trending audio, but it was like a trending idea. And that is this thing where you have, I think it's kind of silly, you have two people sitting side by side. I guess they're kind of like competing for who did it best. And they have to say a phrase that's like, a common phrase they would say on the, day-to-day basis or whatever. And they have to say it, each person has to say it like they're like supportive, and then like what's it called, disappointed, and then like flirtatious, and then like sarcastic. And so like I went first, and then my welcome center supervisor went next, and we went back and forth, and we were laughing a lot. And I was just like, I don't know. First of all, I was like, why did I wear that outfit? Why did I let her record me while I was wearing that outfit? Why did I not sit up taller? Why did I keep doing this weird thing with my chin where I have like much more of a double chin than I would have otherwise? Like, I just wasn't, like, my posture was bad. I was not like camera ready. I've not had my press training, or whatever they call it. I'm just like, oh god. And so, clearly a podcaster with no video. And so, I was like, looking at my face though, because I'd just been thinking about that. I was like, am I doing facial expressions when I do these like voices and stuff? And I was like, oh, I totally am. So that's the good news. I'm not so sure I loved, from like an acting standpoint, I'm not sure I loved everything. I basically, if you ask me to do a something like that, like something that involves like acting, or I mean, it wasn't really acting because it's like a fucking 20 second like post and we're just being stupid. But like, of course, I think about all these things because I've done acting and I've done singing and I've done dancing and I've been trained in a lot of these things, and like I just am critical of myself and my performance no matter what it's for, in a way that other people might not even take time to think about because they haven't been trained to analyze themselves like that. And so, and of course I've had eating disorder, body dysmorphia, all these fucking problems, right? And I'm just like, why is my head so big? Why is my welcome center supervisor so minusculely tiny compared to me? Why do I have this like fat roll in my gut that's like why wasn't I sitting? Like I went through all the things and I just was like, okay, so what things can be fixed? You know, that's the thing we do too. I was like, obviously I need to lose weight and we're working on it. I've talked to my new doctor about it. I'm actually on my way to get blood work and like some urine, but I didn't drink any water. I really need to drink like a bottle of water. Maybe they can give me some water. I definitely pee all the time now, but I just showered and I peed and pooped. I want you to know. And then I looked in the mirror and I said, good job, you fat ass. You peed and pooped. I think I'm losing my brain. I think I'm losing my religion. So anyway, oh my God, that's a legitimate weeping willow. That tree is so beautiful. I don't know if you guys know, and in the South we have live oak trees, or like they're oak trees. I don't know why they call them live oaks, but they're beautiful. And then we have Spanish moss because apparently the Spanish accidentally brought moss to America, and this is what I think to be true. We'll have to do some research. Who the fuck cares? Just another invasive species brought to America by the white man. But yeah, it kind of like grew all over, and so now you see these trees with this draping moss, and some people will make the mistake of calling them willow trees, but they are live oak trees in most cases. And the moss is on other kinds of trees too, but they're in most cases not weeping willows. But that was a legit weeping willow, and I actually don't know that I've ever seen a willow tree in the South, but I'm sure they have them. I just don't recall. And they're probably covered in moss too, so what the fuck. Anyway, oh dear, I went on a thing. So yeah, so I was looking at myself and I was like, am I making enough faces? Am I making the right faces? Am I autistic? And I'm like having to study myself and other people to know what faces to make. And I'm not even sure if that's true about autistic people. I've just heard that some autistic people need to do that. There's obviously lots of different degrees and kinds of neurodivergence, but anyway, so I'm gonna get canceled. Damn it, before I even got viral. I was looking at my face because I recently was talking to this woman who was like she owns a spa, and I walked in with my boss, and my boss goes to the spa to get her like fake eyelashes installed, and this woman, Charisse, is like huge tits, fake, filled lips, Botox, probably other kinds of filler too in her face, and I don't know if she's had any plastic surgery done to her face, but she's like all tatted up, and she's got like 3-inch long acrylic nails, all bejeweled, and she's like got the fat sucked out of her middle and put into her ass. She has like a BBL, and she's just like fucking like, yes. She's a lot though. She drops F-bombs left and right, sis. And I'm like, it's like me and my boss from the YMCA, and you can tell whenever we're like bored or not happy or uncomfortable, we do this thing in our field where we stand. It's also because we're overweight and we're like a little bit uncomfortable with that probably all the time. So we just like, you hold your right wrist with your left hand, and then you just let your arms kind of just be on your stomach. And then you try to put your weight into both feet, and then you just kind of like, you might tilt your head just a little bit if you're trying to like look like you're looking at the person. You turn your head to whatever direction the person's in, provided they're not too far to either side, because then you just turn your body. Because this is like, you're like, okay, we're gonna be here for a while. Let's hunker down, you know? It's a hunker down. And you just try to go somewhere else in your head. And then you do things like going like, oh my gosh. You know, so you're half listening, but you have to keep going somewhere else for your own well-being. Because this person is just like, blah. I'm not saying this about Charisse, but she was like swearing a lot, which makes us uncomfortable because we work for a Christian organization and we don't allow swearing, we don't allow like fucking anything. So I wonder anyone has any fun ever. And essentially like we're just like, we're out in public, we're on the clock, we're representing, and Charisse is like, motherfucker this, F-bomb, fucking cunt, dick, sucking, motherfucking bitch. You know, like she's just like going off and off. I mean, I do this podcast so I can swear like at all, you know? But since working for the Y, yeah, I definitely don't swear nearly as much. And so it's really fun. And I have no sex life. And I'm fat. Awesome. Conservatism has really worked for me. Yeah. So we're hunkering down. We got our little crossed arms, and she's just dropping F-bombs. But I find out that she like loves me, and she just thinks like I need to be, you know, her best friend. She just saw me and was like, oh my god, a gay, you're my best friend. And I was like getting like a lot of like, she's pretty cool, I think, but at the same time, I was getting that she might be like, let's go Brandon a little bit. She might be a little bit of a Trumper, or at least, at the very least, she's like a centrist, or like maybe she likes gays, but she just doesn't like this. And she's also like she's the president of the Chamber of Commerce in the town I work in. So it's like, oh, okay, what? You need to be more professional. And she's like, I can fucking be professional and fucking do everything I fucking want, motherfucker. And you're like, okay. She's like, look at my fucking tits. And you're just like, whoa. And like her nurse that she has on staff is like rolling her eyes, and everyone's just like, whoa. And my boss you could tell she just went somewhere else. And I'm like, well, I guess we could be besties. I was like, I definitely want to get Botox and filler. And then she's like, oh my god, let me have my nurse call you. And then I was like, but I'm poor and this and that and blah blah blah. And I'm like, never had it before, I'm a little bit afraid, but I am starting to get a little older and I want to maintain blah blah blah. And so she did have her nurse call me, and I was like, yeah, bitch, I can't afford this shit. She's like, it's only $700. I was like, that's a month's rent, you whore. Like, fuck you and your tits. So, anyway, I'm meeting this woman, and I'm talking about this stuff, and I'm considering all the things, and trying to normalize. That's another thing too, trying to normalize body modification in my own mind, because I literally am like, I have not had anything done. I obviously don't want to have any elective surgeries, but you know, the idea that a lot of people have is like, well, don't do surgery, just get you know, some fillers, some tox, get like this non-invasive procedure done, and this is what everyone's doing, but it doesn't mean that you're, you know, completely safe and devoid of any danger. You know, like you could still get, there can still be issues. So I'm just kind of like, yikes, I need to think about it. But when I'm looking at this video of myself, and I'm just kind of like, oh, look at my body, what can be done, what can't be done. You know, like I have to lose weight, I have this and that, blah, blah, blah. If I got Botox, for a while I haven't liked my forehead, but I'm looking and seeing that like, oh, so part of what I don't like about my forehead is this like, this, I've always considered it like this like crater wrinkle across my forehead. I've literally had it since I was like a teenager. So like, I'd love it if I could get some tox to like numb up that and like kill those muscles for a bit, so I don't have that really like visible line in my forehead. But I think what I'm finding is I do have kind of a tall forehead, and my temples have always been kind of sunken a little bit, and I've always thought my eyes were too close together, and so I guess when I'm seeing my face, it looks really tall and long, but like kind of sunken in the temples, even though I've filled out in my cheeks, in my neck as I've gotten older and fatter. It still feels like my temples are just like a little too, you know, ba-boom. And so in pictures, I especially with flash photography, I mean, someone as pale as me doesn't really need to be taking a lot of flash photography. Even in a dark room, I mean, I'm ghostly. So with camera phones or photography or whatever, a lot of times I just feel like my forehead looks sunken on the temples, and so I'm looking at it and thinking like, is there anything I can actually do? I mean, obviously tox on my forehead and the 11s in between my eyebrows. I actually am less upset about the forehead wrinkle because I feel like it breaks my huge forehead into two halves. It might actually be helping, but the 11s I feel like make me look older. I don't have the what is it called, the labial folds or whatever that are like from your nose, your nostril down to the corner of your mouth. I don't really have much of that unless I'm making a kissy face, and then I do have a fold there, but I don't make kissy face when I think my lips are not tiny. And I do feel like my lips are kind of tiny, although I do have like equal parts upper and lower lip. For a white person, that's pretty impressive. I still think I want my lips to be fuller, but I've recently realized that my mouth isn't very wide. So if I make my lips fuller, will I just look like a little, you know, like a geisha or something? Like, you know, that like kind of like heart lip look. But I'm also thinking you can get filler to fill out your temples so that your face doesn't look sunken there. It can look a little bit wider, and that might, I don't know if that's going to make my eyes look closer together or what. I'm not even sure if these people would have the ability to really help me make my face look better, or if it just needs to be done with like makeup. I don't know. But it is something to consider. It's like I'm so worried about these things that I can change, but then there's like, maybe there's other things that I can't change, and it's like, well, if you can't change things, then, you know, maybe you should just get over it, you know, just stop being so uncomfortable. If it's something you can't do anything about, then just fucking shut up. Just like get over it, you know. So listen, okay, let me just say, we were having like crazy smoke in Michigan coming down from Canada. There was something like 860 wildfires the last time I checked burning in Canada. 113 or so of those were what was considered out of control fires. Now, I don't know if that means that they were so bad they could not be controlled, or I'm learning that there were fires that were like a big part of what's on fire is like wilderness, and it's like way out where there's like no roads, or like there's no way to get there. On the ground, you'd have to be like in a helicopter or an airplane, right, flying over. And they fly over these places, and they drop however much, water or anti-fire liquid or whatever they can, that one plane can hold, but it's like not enough. So that many fires, for one reason or another, are considered out of control. But there's still hundreds more. There was like, I think I looked last week, midweek, on this site that was actually Canadian. So I was like, I feel like I can trust this a little bit better. There was something like 500 and some fires that they were keeping an eye on. They were just like, these ones aren't bad yet. A certain amount of fires in wooded areas is expected, right? And if they start because of natural reasons, like, it's not that they just let them happen. It's that they monitor them. So yeah. So I mean, forest fires would happen no matter what. Even if we didn't have global warming, they certainly wouldn't happen at the rate that they're happening at. And the fact that we have like not enough rainfall is bad in these areas. Record high heat waves in these areas. It's all just like not good. So when you see that it's like over 100 in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, that's like not good. It's like, oh shit. So because that's way the fuck up there. Yeah. So this has been happening. The smoke plumes are blowing down from all sorts of parts of Canada, and this happened last year, although not as bad as it did this last week. And it happened, it's been happening each summer for like a while. I remember I would be down in South Carolina, my parents would be up in Michigan, and I'd hear about the air quality being really bad, and my parents are in their their 70s, so I'm like, oh shit, like this is bad, like calling my mom, like, are you guys okay, like, are you breathing fine, like, because it's obviously, that'll say like the air is hazardous, but it's really the worst for people that are immunocompromised or have breathing problems. And generally old people have more breathing problems because of a lot of reasons, right? I will also mention the diarrhea lettuce, which is not new news. Even if I release this episode today, that wouldn't be new news. Apparently there's this I almost said chloroparia. I'm gonna call it chloroparia because it is a pariah. No one likes this parasite that's like riding on lettuce from Mexico. It is actually really insane that they have not been able to isolate the source of this parasite. Apparently, like, there's lettuce, and I know that like Taco Bell may have been serving it. A bunch of people got sick at Taco Bell's in Michigan. I also want to say chloroparielis, but that's definitely not it. Parielis. Remember that? I think that's still a brand. I'm not sure. Chloroparielis. I hate myself. Oh God. So we're not supposed to be eating Taco Bell in the state of Michigan. Like, the FDA is like, don't do it. And there's like 4 other states where they're telling their people not to eat Taco Bell. But I mean, Taco Bell's obviously removed any lettuce from their menu, if they're smart. If they were smart, they would do it nationwide, and they would just like be like, everything's fine, everyone, you can keep eating our food. I mean, it's as fine as it's ever been. There's no more lettuce, here you go. Which I'm sure they've done. And then there's also the the farms, the Taylor Farms lettuce, and other greens that are probably processed in similar factories. So that's one that's gotten hit pretty hard, I know. I'm not really sure what's going on, but they have been not finding it very easy to figure out the source of the parasite, as I had previously said. And it makes you wonder if, the fact that, like, DOGE and, the Trump administration have just, like, literally stripped all of our government agencies of anyone with any kind of education and real talent, I don't want to say that completely, because there's probably some people still working at these agencies who are just trying to hold shit down, who like are probably working with other people who they think are just like absolutely imbecilic. And I definitely don't want those people to feel like we think they're stupid or bad at their jobs, but obviously there's a lot going on, and we're just kind of like, I feel like if those cuts hadn't been made to the CDC specifically, we might be handling this situation better, and I don't think that Trump gives a shit. I mean, all he cared about was being at the fucking last game of the World Cup or whatever. And I mean, I saw a clip of him. It was like him looking out the window on like whatever they call the helicopter that he rides on, like coming into, I think it was New Jersey. It's like New York, New Jersey Stadium or whatever for the final game of the World Cup. I think it was Spain against Argentina or something like that. I'm really knowing more about things that I don't know about than I would usually. I think I'm batting 1,000 today. Is that a term that we say? Is that a World Cup term? Do they use bats in soccer? I think they might. So that's, obviously I think that everything has been, all government agencies have been just like stripped, and they are functioning. I don't want to know. I don't know what percent they're functioning at, but I'm afraid it's closer to 50 than 100. And if it's below 50, I don't know that they can be functional. That's not functional, right? Like I think you have to be at least 50% to be considered functional at all, I would say, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. As it is, like, there's so much red tape in politics that, like, government agencies probably can't be at 100% functionality, because they, have to wait for so-and-so to vote on something, right? They're like, we could cure this disease right now, but we've got to have Congress vote first. So we're just waiting, But anyway, that's America. 250 years of not quite. So, the real story today, and this isn't it. Let me say one more thing. All these things are needing to be said before we get into the real story. So, another side story is that Lindsey Graham died. He is the senator from South Carolina. and he is notoriously an in-the-closet gay guy, or was. I guess we now have to talk about him in the past tense. I don't know if he was gay or bi or what, but I know he likes sex workers. And I had heard that from a lot of different sources, most of them not reputable. But it's pretty much gone around. Everyone knows it, and he just doesn't talk about it, and his people didn't talk about it. And now we're finding out that there were sex workers that were male, and they were forced to sign NDAs, and they would work with him on multiple occasions, and he paid them very well, but he had them do some pretty nasty things to him or with him. And I wouldn't say it was abusive in the sense that, they're sex workers. They weren't being forced to do anything they didn't want to do. Although there's a pretty, you ride the line as a sex worker, and it's an awkward situation. You have to be really good at advocating for yourself in those situations. Like, if a client wants something you don't want to do, you have to have already decided, nope, if this happens, I'm not doing it. This is what I'll tell the client. I want to be professional, but just be like, I'm so sorry, that's not something I offer. But, if that's a deal breaker, then I understand, but, I do expect to be paid for this session, because we've already done a number of things that, I worked. This was work for me, so yeah, I do expect to be paid. If you wanted to pay me a little bit less, or if you wanted the session to be over, or we could finish the session and, do other things, but that's not something I'm willing to do. That's what I would say to a client that wanted me to let them spit in my mouth. I'd be like, nope, we don't do that. I mean, I never kissed any of my clients when I did sex work, so spitting in the mouth would have been like, oh. Saliva I find so disgusting. And I think we know that mouths are so much dirtier than so many things. I think most people's mouths are dirtier than their genitals, by far. I know of a girl that got strep vagina because the person who ate her out had strep throat and ate her out like a dirty fucking freak, and then she had strep vagina. So there you go. My friends, this is this girl named I don't know, her name wasn't Monica, I think it was Michaela. She was a roommate of my two gay friends, and they were like, oh, Michaela's got strep vagina. They're like, Michaela, we're gonna make a vagina pact. Is it a pack or a pact? It's like when you encase something in a hardening thing that is got nutrients, or I think it's Ayurvedic or something. They were gonna make a salve or a pack or something out of yogurt and granola for her vagina. It's so stupid. Oh my god. They're there's all, and this was pre probiotics, when everyone was talking about probiotics, but they knew the healing, nourishing properties of yogurt and granola for exfoliation purposes. And it was what they had on hand. I think that's what Ben eats for breakfast every morning. So stupid. I love it so much. Okay. So anyway, how do I backtrack from that? So Lindsey Graham died. He certainly never did anything good for the queer people of his state, yet he was having sex with male sex workers. He, to my knowledge, never got married, and he was just a lying, cheating scoundrel. that being said, you know, the flag at my Y is half-mast because of his stupid death, and I'm not necessarily celebrating it, but I'm certainly not unhappy that he's dead. I just know that, like, he will be replaced by some other fucking idiot, asshole, piece of shit. And I am usually never about outing people, but, ooh, daddy, fuck. Sorry, that guy was really hot. He was giving, like, Jude Law, Cold Mountain. He was spraying grass with some solution, probably fertilizer. Oh, I want him to fertilize me. Please. Men with jobs, they just really get me going. There were these two cops at the grocery store last night, and I was like, I fucking them. They were so hot, especially one of them. He had, like, the pants were tight, the booty was popping, the tats on the arms, the bulletproof vest, the sidearm. Oh my god, I would have let him, like, pistol whip me. He was so hot, and he saw me staring at him. I was, like, holding my grocery basket, because I always tell myself I'm gonna buy less than I end up buying, and I was just like, raping these cops, and they were just like, he looked at me like I was super sus, like, you got a fucking problem? And I was just kind of like, yeah, maybe I do, officer. Anyway, that's my story. These fantasies live in my brain and nowhere else. Yeah, so I'm not gonna, like, go out and celebrate about Lindsey Graham's death. I didn't celebrate Charlie Kirk's death. Charlie Kirk, you know, I feel is less to celebrate because he was assassinated. He was murdered with a gun. And I am anti-gun, so, like, I obviously don't think that was good at all. I think it was traumatizing for a lot of people. I think that, you know, he has a wife and children. Well, I don't give a shit about Erica Kirk, but the children don't have a father anymore, you know. It's just this whole thing of, like, you know, guns are bad, and he was, like, talking about how guns were good up until the literal moment he got shot. So I really don't think that Charlie Kirk was a very good person for our country. But all right, bitches, so here's the deal. I'm going to talk about this a little bit now, and I'm going to share as much of the facts as I can. So this is really what the fuck is happening right now. And for some reason, this is actually going to be coming out. Oh my god, that was loud. Sorry. This is actually going to be coming out not too far from when it actually dropped, which lately that hasn't been happening. Episodes have been dropping, like, about stuff that's happened like 2 weeks ago. So this is in the moment. It actually is still developing as we speak, and I just expect that it'll continue to develop, and I will just be able to give you guys some updates as I find out more information. So my mother and my stepdad and my niece, they all still live down where I lived in South Carolina. And in the town that I lived in, there is a church. I'm not going to tell you the name of the church, but it's not because I'm trying to protect the church. So I think I do want to go in chronological order with this because I want you to know like why it is that I'm so absorbed by it. So a while back, I lived down there, as you guys know. Some of you know, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, you know I was a part of I was a part of the local chapter of PFLAG. PFLAG was started supposed to stand for like Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays or something. But now they just call it PFLAG, and they pretend that it's a support group for, you know, those who have gay and lesbian and trans and blah 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 friends and loved ones, family members, but it's also for people who are a part of the LGBTQIA plus communities. So it's like support for everyone, and it, you know, it's continuing to evolve to include more and more people and support, you know, as much as it can. Oh, fuck me. It's the first time I left my house today, so bear with me. You know, I got involved with PFLAG because of my comedy show. We found out that there were these children who were kicked out of their homes by their parents, were forced to leave their homes by their parents because they were queer and their parents were religious. And so we heard that there were just queer teenagers living in the woods. And we were like, what? And I was at the home of a woman who was running for the school board. She was actually running for a seat that someone had given up, and she was going to fill the seat. She's now on the school board in her own seat because she was elected twice to be on the school board. Yay! She basically, I think that's true. Is that true? Maybe it's true. I'm pretty sure it's true. So she told us about the children, and or someone at her party. It was like a campaign party, whatever, at her house, and that's where we found out about it. And I also got a really good recipe for queso dip that you make in a crock pot with 3 ingredients. So it was a very productive evening, and so essentially we were like, we need to find out about these children. We need to do something. Let's raise money. Let's find a way to like support these kids who, you know, should not be homeless in high school, you know, and they should not be like the parents of children who are gay. If you come out to your parents and your parents kick you out of your house, or your parents make you feel unsafe to the point where like you need to move out, like those parents, that's abuse. That's literally abuse, and those parents need to be like, something needs to come from it, you know. It can't just be the kid being punished and having to deal with all of the consequences. Like, that is not good parenting. And I don't care if you are religious and your religion tells you fucking blah blah blah. If you choose your church over your kid, you're a piece of shit. So there's that. Enough said. Full stop. If your fear of going to hell and burning for all eternity is more than your love of your child, that's fucked up. Like, you should be prepared to die for this child, and for your child to be happy, you should be willing to like go through the gates of hell, you know, like, honestly. So, and if you're not prepared to do that for another human being, fucking don't have kids. I said it. There it is. Guess who doesn't have kids? This bitch. That being said, I'm very protective of my nieces, who I had nothing to do with, you know, them being born, but I love them dearly, and I'm very protective of them. And I would choose them before I would choose a religion. And I know that's easy for me to say because I'm not religious and blah, blah, blah. I chose myself a long time ago over my religion, but yeah. So essentially, we started the comedy show. We ended up reaching out to a few people who had started a local chapter of PFLAG, and we were like, is this the right charity to kind of like join forces with? We knew that we would have to, we couldn't just do a charity, raise money, get the money and have it in our hands and then hand it over to some kids in the woods. Like, that's not how that goes. So we knew we would have to funnel it through some kind of a local charity, and they would be able to find ways to support the kids. Now, it didn't happen that directly or that easily, and then it also turned out that like the kids weren't just living in the woods. They'd been taken in by some people that were really lovely, and it was actually the parents of their classmates. The parents of their fucking classmates. Can you fucking believe it? Had bigger balls than their own parents. Now, is it that easy? No. Like, maybe some of those parents came to their senses. Maybe they were just in shock. Maybe they just like flew off the handle. Maybe they eventually they did welcome their kids back. Maybe they did accept their kids, whatever. But whatever. I don't know. Fucking, I hope so. I hope that there's peace in those families and that those queer young people have support. I honestly do. And I hope that non-queer people realize that queer people have the potential to be amazing, and they offer the world a lot of exactly what it needs. So, there's a reason for everything. God made queer people, and if you believe in God, you can't just believe that God whoopsie doodles, or that he didn't make them this way and that they're going against God. It's like, no, bitch, that's not how it works. God made everything. God even made the mistakes. If there's a God isn't like no one is above God in their plans. No one is like, oh, God wants this, but I'm gonna do that. No, that's not possible. That's not possible. So, anyway, it's gonna be the longest episode ever. I can't focus. So, essentially, we joined forces with PFLAG, and I was then asked to become a part of the board of PFLAG. And I'm trying to remember the woman's name that was like the president. I think her name was Diane. I can't even remember her face now, because she left the board and I was still on the board, and I was on there with, some other people, whatever. We ended up doing several comedy shows. I'm no longer on the board because I moved, and I'm no longer doing the comedy show because they continued without me, but I'm super happy that it's still going and that it's going well. And I believe they changed the name, but that's all great. I'm happy for people doing good things, and I don't have to make it about me, blah, 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 blah. I have it on my resume, and that's all I need, right? And I know that I was a part of creating something in a place in the country that needed support, and I was a part of giving that support, and that makes me feel really good about myself. If the comedy show didn't continue to happen, that would make me really sad, obviously. So, oh my God, there's these cops that come to my grocery store, and they're so hot, and I think I'm about to see them again. It's so hard for me to focus on helping people when I just want to get bent over the fucking hood of my car. Is this the hot cops? That one looks like the lesser of the two hot cops, but he's still hot. Let's see what the other one looks like. The other one is like, he's got like fucking tats. The one is just like skinny, muscular, but with like, okay, they're completely different cops. I was so afraid that for some reason I was like on the cops like schedule, and that they were gonna start to think I was even more sus. I mean, I would definitely not say no to those cops either. They're not the hot cops from last week. These look like cops from like a TV show about cops, but like a comedy. Okay, anyway. So lots of stuff went down there in South Carolina. One thing that had happened was we had two events. We had the comedy show, and it was a big fundraiser, and then we had an event that was like a Pride picnic. And then they started calling it like the Pride Pizza Picnic in the Park or something. And it was just a lot of P's, a lot of plosives. And I was like, let's just call it the picnic, the Pride picnic, the PFLAG Pride picnic, or let's just, we don't have to have everything in the title. Like, it could be pizza, and and in the future it could be different. If you're putting pizza in the title, then we're kind of have to do pizza every year, but maybe we do fried chicken, sometime. I don't know. Like, let's just calm down. But I was not involved with planning that event. I was involved with the comedy show. So I was just like, whatever. I did comedy at the picnic one year. But, okay, so we wanted the picnic to be at an outdoor venue, and we had there's a community garden in the town as well. And it was started by a man who I believe was like a not first gen. He was actually an immigrant. He's from some country in Africa. I think he came to the States to go to college. And he was like aware of like lots of, I don't know if he studied sociology or whatever, but he's also a Christian, and he decided that he wanted to do something with his life that really was going to help human beings. And so him and his family moved to South Carolina at some point, I guess. I don't know, maybe they were already there. And he decided to start a community garden, and he chose to start a community garden in a community where, like, I think I've talked about this before too, there's a lot of like underserved people, lots of people of color on one side of things, and on the other side of things there's like super rich fucking people too. So it was kind of a good idea, because it was like, I can find rich people who want to donate to the community garden to keep it running. We can have like fundraisers and stuff, and there's money to get, but there's also this like other half of the community that's underserved, and we can teach them about planting, we can teach them about like growing food, we can teach them about like life, and actually like give them some quality lessons about lots of things. And we can use the community garden to make that happen. And if nothing else, the community garden is a space where people can gather, and that's exactly what he allowed us to do for Pride each year. He allowed us to have essentially like different tents, different tables, like all different LGBTQIA plus supporting organizations come out and like set up in the big field area of the gardens. And they, we had a DJ, and we had some like fun things for the kids, bounce house, the normal shit, vendors, blah blah blah. And it was like a really nice thing. And the thing about the community garden is it's on some back road in town, and it's not really like right in the middle of downtown, or there really wasn't a downtown in my town, but it was off the beaten path. So you could have an event like that, and if you weren't invited to the event and you didn't drive down that road, you wouldn't have even known it happened, So we did it a couple years, and now we introduced the church. This church was run by a pastor and his wife, and I actually don't remember their names. So her name is Jenny, or Ginny. I think it's Jenny, but it's spelled like Ginny, like she's made out of gin. Which, I mean, I wouldn't judge her if she was. I used to be made out of gin. Now I'm made out of cheese. And I think his name is Don Williams and Ginny Williams. I don't know, they're not the people that started this church, but they certainly are the current pastor and his wife, and like they are the ones in question here in my story. They used to, so there was a school and that was a part of their church, and I didn't realize that. I just thought that it was like a lot of churches have schools for teaching Christianity, like the youth group or catechism or whatever. It's only catechism in the Catholic Church. I don't know what they call it. They have some fluffy name for it with, evangelical and Protestant churches. But anyway, so it was like a whole campus. They had multiple buildings. They had a chapel. They had multiple directors. They actually had a full school. I think it was like a K through, it wasn't a K through 12, but it was maybe a kindergarten through 5th or 6th. And then they go off to intermediate, and then they go off to, maybe they had middle school too. I don't know. I don't know that much about it because I just realized it was a thing. But they had director for that. They had a director for the adults, director for the youth, all the things, right? They used to allow in these school spaces the community garden people, and I do not remember the name of the guy who started the community garden, but he's a lovely man. He's very nice. He does not maybe agree with everything I believe in, but he, oh bitch, you are close to hitting my car. You do not need to pull into that spot. Great. That was so stupid. Okay. He was, he had made contact with this church, and, he was like, we have a lot of outdoor space to work with these, children in underserved communities and blah, blah, blah. But like, we don't have, any indoor space really. And, there's some times when we need it, and there's some different things we want to be able to provide. And, would it be possible for us to like have, to use space at your school for those purposes, and, could you donate the space, or could you give it to us for cheap? Because, we are a nonprofit, blah, 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 youth serving organization. And I'm sure that the church allowed them to do that free of charge. I don't actually know, but let's just give them credit and say that they did that. And maybe there was some tit for tat. Maybe they had to do something in return. I don't know. But so I don't know how long it was after the community garden allowed us to do our pride picnic in the park, but the church pastor became aware of the fact that the community garden was allowing us to do one event once a year. They were also involved in some way as like a sponsor or something in our comedy show, but like they didn't give us any logos or anything. They didn't I think he was in attendance at the thing. I think we let him, at one of our shows, we let him get up and talk about the community garden. It really was not a big deal. It was not a big thing. I will say that the first year we did our comedy show, we did it at a donut shop, and the woman that was the proprietor of the donut shop, she got threats. They threatened to like burn the business down. They threatened to burn her house down. And her and her family actually moved into a rental home that they owned. And then a bunch of the people that started PFLAG, they got threats too. I didn't get any threats, and I started the comedy show. And I don't know if it's because I lived with my parents and no one could find out where I lived,
or maybe nobody knew who I was, or maybe, I don't know, but they got threats and I didn't. And I was kind of like, where are my threats? Come on, I'm somebody. So the pastor and his wife, or let's just say the pastor, found out that he was associating with PFLAG, which is a reputable organization all over the country. It's not just like, we didn't start it. We were just a chapter of a thing that's like, been around for a while and is very reputable. But it is for LGBTQIA plus people and their families. And so they said, you got to choose. You can't affiliate with them if you want to be able to use space at our church. And meanwhile, we're doing all this good stuff for the community, and we were actually trying to prove ourselves in the community as like, we're not just interested in supporting LGBTQIA plus people. We want to be an active part of this community because we live here. We want people to know that we support nurses, we support teachers, we support the NAACP chapter in the local area. We support, all sorts of different things. We support libraries, we support good shit for the community. We want there to, students to have supplies. We want people to have food. And no, that's not what we were mainly doing. But we were like working towards like trying to make safe spaces for LGBTQIA plus people. And we had a program that we would teach people how to create safe spaces for all people in their libraries and their restaurants and their businesses, and it's been very effective. I mean, it's a really cool training, and people should do it so that they can be more inclusive and they can expand their business. So, I mean, potentially, I don't know. Maybe not in that town. We'll see. But I think that there has been a very positive effect. The work we did was very positive. So they said that to the guy who started the community garden. They said, hey, even though you're doing all this work to support children and, they're, underserved children, and you're running this amazing nonprofit, just because you're associating with an LGBTQIA plus nonprofit, we don't want anything to do with you anymore. So you can't use our classroom spaces for teaching your school, your classes and everything. I mean, they weren't even bringing the gays to the church. Like we had nothing to do with the church. There was definitely a separation there, and they just said, no, we can't be doing that. And they said, you got to make a choice. And the guy said, well, PFLAG is inclusive, and Jesus would want me to be inclusive. And you're asking me to exclude, you're asking me to turn away, you're asking me to, shut the doors on people that are really good people, that I know are good people. And so I'm going to have to go with my gut, and I'm going to have to go with what I believe as a Christian. And that is, we'll have to find another place for the kids to use indoor space for classes, because this is not Christianity. This is like some dark shit. This pastor and his wife are bigots, and they're assholes, and they are not good Christians. They're fake, false Christians. Because Jesus would not support their actions. And they allegedly believe in Jesus, right? So this last week, a teacher at the school, at the church, came forward and told authorities that a known sex offender had been volunteering at the church and had been in close contact with the children for many years. So I actually don't remember the name of the sex offender, but he his prior conviction was for had to do with child pornography or something. And I know we're not calling it child pornography because it's like, that makes it sound like children were involved in porn. It's not porn, it's like literal photos of child sex abuse, right? So, but that's not the legal terminology yet. That's just what we call it, because we know that it's like sexual abuse was happening and these are photographs of it, right? So essentially that's what he was convicted of. I don't know if he was the one who produced the material or if he just had it, if he was like buying it, selling it, I don't know. But that was the conviction. And he that apparently was charged in 2020. He was convicted in 2023, and he has been involved with that church for the last 4 years as a volunteer, doing lots of different things. And it's 2026. So 4 years ago was 2022. So that would have been a year before his conviction. My guess is that with that kind of a crime, he would not have been held in jail that entire time. He was probably on probation. But at no time was he allowed legally to be around children. And the pastor and his wife both were aware of all of what was going on, and they allowed him to be near children. And their excuse was that he was never around the children. And the thing is like, they literally have pictures of him like in close contact with children. And they have pictures of him in close contact with children with like the pastor and the pastor's wife present and other members of the leadership staff for the church and the school. Now, one of the people, she was the director of the school, is the mother of children that I taught theater to. And I know her to be a very sweet, loving woman, a mother. She has a bunch of kids. She has grandkids. She is a Christian, but she's always been very, very sweet to me. I was unaware that she worked at this church or that she had such a high up job at this church. I knew other people that were really kind and sweet to me that were involved at this church, including my neighbors. But you know, you can't really live in the South without knowing a whole fuck ton of Christians. Or a whole fuck ton of Republican conservatives, right? Like, you have to tolerate a lot, and you have to accept a lot of people on their terms, and at some point you have to just be like grateful if they accept you at all on your terms in any way. Even if they don't fully accept you, you just have to be like, oh, you didn't throw a brick at me? Oh, thank you so much. Bless your heart. You know, exactly. So it's just been a lot. And of course, my niece, Maya, she's been kind of feeding me information. I think she had to take a break because it got a little bit dark. I've been feeding information to my besties who are liberal. None of us live there anymore. Maya doesn't exactly live there. She lives nearby. But then we find out that in 2009, the pastor's son, who went to a local high school, what we've had issues with before. He went to a local high school. He was accused of sexually assaulting a girl that he liked, that went to high school with him, and he pleaded guilty to that. He did do that, and they had lots and lots of evidence that he did that, like text messages from him and the girl. And so yeah, he came clean. He pleaded guilty, and he was sent to some like special school for like a year. But then after that year, he was allowed to be on probation. He was 17. I don't know how he wasn't tried as an adult at 17 for sexual assault, but he wasn't. And then he was allowed to go back to the same high school where his victim was still a student. And there was a whole bunch of rules that the court said, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like, you got to show up no earlier than 10 minutes before class. You got to, in the morning, you got to go right to your first period. Then you got to go right to your second period. You have to eat lunch at this period. And, it can't be the same lunch period as your victim, and you got to do everything you can to stay away from her. You're not allowed to contact her, blah, blah, blah. It was just like a very strict thing, but he also sexually assaulted somebody, and he was not in jail. So it's like, this is strict, but yet not strict enough. You know what I mean? And of course, in these situations, there's a lot of talk about how, like, people make mistakes, and he was young and he didn't know what he was doing, and he deserves a second chance, and we have to like believe that like rehabilitation is possible, and blah blah blah. There's so much energy and time and sympathy for the perpetrator of these crimes, and there is not nearly enough for the victims. And I read a news article about it. The victim was not named, and I was like very surprised. It was a local article, and it kind of like shared what happened and the experience from both sides. And it was like, meanwhile, this victim, like, she was still at the same school. She had to be afraid constantly of running into her assaulter. Is that what we're calling it? She did run into him several times. She was an A+ student. She did not do well after that. Her grades went down the tubes. She was depressed. She was anxious. She was having like PTSD. And the school was like, we've done everything we can. This happened outside of school. We really believe we've like done everything like that we were legally required to do, and we're blah blah blah. There was an incident where the school scheduled both the victim and the perpetrator for the same lunch hour, and she had to see him in the lunchroom, and that was not supposed to happen. And they quickly, or they fixed it, but it was like, why? You only have one person at your school who's been convicted of sexual assault and one victim. Can you just not forget that you're not supposed to let them see each other? And of course, like, I'm sure everyone in the school knew that he was, convicted of sexual assault. I'm not sure what that was like for him, but he was allowed to be on the fucking basketball team. He was allowed to play sports. He was allowed to go back to school. He was allowed to like do his whole thing. Never mind that he should have technically been like on the sex offenders list, and that should have like made him not be able to be even at that school because his victim was at that school. Or he should not have been allowed to be alone with like teenage girls. You know, like he should not have been allowed to be around teenage girls. Now, I think some of that comes down to the fact that he was 17. And so, like, it is iffy. It's like 17 is, I guess in South Carolina, it is considered legally an adult, but it's definitely not considered an adult in all the different ways. It's borderline. So I think there's probably something about that. But the fact that, like, that son sexually assaulted a girl, and they were these Christian people, and they were part of this awesome church that was bigoted, yes, but, you know, was huge in the community and made so many people feel closer to God or whatever. And then that happened not that long ago, but long ago enough where it should have been like, wait a minute, our pastor's son sexually assaulted a girl? Like, that should, I'm not really sure what the rule should be, but it's kind of this thing of like, I don't know. Do we want him to be the pastor of a church? I don't know. And so this is all there, you know, that there's already so much news of like evidence of like them harboring sex offenders. All right. There's also allegations coming out. There was a case 20 years ago in that same church of sexual abuse. There's other things coming up that I have to catch up on, but the director lady I know, she turned herself in. She was arrested. She like I said, she took herself to the sheriff's station or whatever and turned herself in. The pastor and his wife were both arrested. The sex offender was arrested. The sex offender violated his probation. He is not granted bond. He was not given bond. They all had a bond hearing, but he was not given bond as a possibility. At the time, the director of the school lady, she had 3 counts against her, and her bond was $25,000 per count, so $75,000. The same with the pastor. At the time, the pastor's wife only had 2 counts against her, and so that was $25,000 for her, $50,000 against her for bond, which they probably could afford to pay. There's now been an additional count put on the pastor's wife because they're finding out more and more and more. And all the people, every single parent at that school is fucking livid. And they're all like, oh, we'll show you everything. We've got pictures, we've got records, we've got all of this. Like, it is deep. And now they're calling for the resignation of 6 more people in leadership positions with the church and the school. One of them is a man that I know from my work. He used to be a member at our Y, and he used to come, and his family would come. They've always been kind. I just always thought they were ridiculous because they had like 12 kids or something, and their kids were all different ages, but they literally, like, it's like his wife had a baby every year or something. It was like, can you stop? So there's that. Yeah. It's no surprise to someone like me. I gave up on Christianity a long time ago. I know the kinds of like bullshit that is harbored. You know, I know like the way that it's systematically designed. It just, there's so much room for wrongdoing to live there. I mean, there's so much room for pastors and priests to do bad things and get away with it. There's so much room for children to be abused, and it's by design. Like, there's so many lies and there's so many dark corners, and it's just like, it's no surprise to me, but it is very upsetting, obviously. And what I guess we're waiting to find out now is if there are any victims Right now it's just that like the pastor and his wife and the director put children in harm's way, and this guy violated his parole and everyone was aware of it. But the question becomes, like, while he had access to these children, were there actual victims at this school? And I think that's what we're gonna find out. It's gonna get messier. And I know it's very upsetting to a lot of people. And I think, unfortunately, only a few people will come out of this thinking that organized religion is bullshit. Not nearly enough. I think that they will be able to separate the bad from, you know, like the cancerous tumor, they can just cut it out and remove it, but the rest of the body's fine. And they'll just keep the rest of the body, even though there's definitely some more cancer hidden in there. That's what they'll do. Of course, that's what they'll do. Anyway, that's what's happened in the last 2 weeks. I'm glad I could finally talk about it. I'm not like upset. I've actually been like, part of me has been so happy and so relieved because, like, you know, when you work so hard to do good things for people and communities, and you're treated like a miscreant because of who you are, and you're told that you're a sinner from birth, and then the people that were so shitty and unkind and like contributed to an environment that made you deeply unhappy and depressed, when they're found to be evil pieces of fucking scum, it feels real nice. It does. Sorry about it. I pray that, like, children weren't harmed. I hope that the only wrongdoing that occurred with this situation was that there were children in harm's way, but that they weren't actually harmed. Because we certainly don't need more PTSD. We don't need more trauma. We don't need more anxiety and depression in this world. We've got quite enough, thank you. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. I hope that you rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, specifically this one. I hope that you email us at makesensewithmepodcast@gmail.com. And I hope you're filling your holes with something that scratches that itch. Oof, scratches that itch, girl. I don't know if it's like Vagisil or if it's like finding out that your high school bully never amounted to anything. Or whatever makes you happy. Goodbye!